it's just something that happens. And like, that's not, unfortunately, it wasn't how we thought. So what are we going to do now? Like, what else could we do? Hey, welcome to Smart AF. I'm your host, Torie Mathis. We have got a great show for you today. So let's get started. Man, so ever since this COVID crap has been happening, Facebook is a nightmare. And I'm not talking about like the Facebook that everybody knows, but like the back end, the Facebook ads. I think that it has good too, because I'm in Facebook groups with a lot of other advertisers, and like everybody's ads are getting turned off. Accounts are getting flagged for weird ass shit. And it, like the first time it happened, it was off for like, on some of my ad accounts, was off for like 2 weeks. And no matter what I did, like these ads would not turn back on. I contacted Facebook, I talked to my rep, and they wouldn't turn on. And I
It's Facebook's algorithm just going through berserk, right?
It is. It's
shutting
just
stuff off and doing random things.
Yeah, it was for, lately it's like political. Like you're doing political ads when obviously like we're not doing political ads. So it's like these weird random glitches that work themselves out. Like all of them have worked themselves out. They've taken a little while. Each one has taken like a little bit different time. And once I noticed that it like wasn't me, like, because I'm always like, oh my God, what did I do? But like, it wasn't anything that I did.
The ad that's been up for a year and a half with no issues all of a sudden gets flagged. My
ad that's been doing so fantastic that I've nurtured and created this like wonderful like asset has, so I thought I did something. I'm surprised I didn't give myself an ulcer. Like I was like doing like all the normal things that you would do if something happens, like duplicating the ad and redoing it and make small changes and like everything. Nothing would work, man. And you know what? It all worked itself out. But I was so like the flexibility was like not in there at all. And I actually had a launch just a few weeks ago, like a big launch with a client. And the exact same thing happened. And for 3 days of like a 7-day launch, there were no ads. I could not get an ad up. I'm like, Facebook just doesn't want to take the money. Like, I don't understand. But you know what? You can't put all your eggs in the same basket. You can't have everything rely on one source. You can't, what was I telling you? You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, Sean, that is a say. Like, you can't.
Who does that?
Somebody must have done that. Who would do that? That is kind of weird. But like, you can't just like throw the whole business away because something happened. Shit is always going to happen, whether it's Facebook ads or there's always going to be something that's going on. Freaking out doesn't work. Let me tell you, like giving yourself an ulcer doesn't work. Like it just doesn't. And it had me thinking about, like, I keep seeing these people that are like, the children today are going to be so traumatized because they're not at school or they've had a couple months off and they had to do online learning or because they can't go trick-or-treating. Like, you're going to give your kids ulcers.
They're not going to come up with that conclusion themselves. They're hearing it from somebody.
Like, I've really, really tried not to say to the kids that, like, there's something wrong and you're missing out. Like, okay, Riley missed 6th grade graduation. He didn't get to like say goodbye to his teachers. I guess they got to do some final walk thingy. I didn't even say anything to him because if I made it a big deal, then it would have been a big deal.
He would have been all kinds of upset for maybe not for no reason, but nothing we could do about it. So why would we put him through that?
Like, it's just something that happens. And like, that's not, unfortunately it wasn't how we thought. So what are we going to do now? Like, what else could we do? Like trying to just keep the kids flexible. Like, so what? They can't, maybe your neighborhood isn't trick-or-treating. I don't know what your neighborhood, like, we're going to trick-or-treat anyway. Like, some of our neighbors are like, we're all for it. But even if they couldn't, like, it's not going to traumatize them. Just like the Facebook ads going off. Like, it's not going to ruin the business. Like, it's not going to happen. Shit happens, you guys. It really does. And it happens all the time. You can't give yourself an ulcer. Can't give your kids an ulcer.
So what'd you do?
For which one?
For the Facebook ads.
So the first time it happened, like I literally freaked out. Like I was going crazy. And it took a little while, but it worked itself out. But I still thought that it was something I did. Like I thought I did something. And then I saw other people were saying, hey, all my ads turned off and it said this and I don't know what that means. And I'm like, wow, that happened to me too. And so I started seeing that it was happening to other people. So now when it happened in the big launch, I was disappointed, but I knew it was going to work itself out. And so I went into the Facebook group. I said what had happened. I have a Facebook group that's really active about Facebook ads, and like I could find out anything in there. And right away, somebody said, that had happened to me. And then once I said it, other people were like, oh, that's happening to me. Oh, that's happening to me. So I was updating them on what was going on with me. This particular one took 3 days, and it finally just out of nowhere, everything turned back on.
Without making any adjustments.
No adjustments. Like nothing that I did worked. And just letting it sit there, like nothing actually happened. I went through all the like regular things like, okay, what's the process that I need to do? So, is there a video on there that is kind of glitchy? Is there a link that might be broken or that, Facebook doesn't like because you're saying something like political right now is like a really big one. If you're trying to do get rich quick, that's always like something. And sometimes things do get flagged, but usually like you're like, what the heck would that be? Like, I didn't do anything that would be, that would call this flag. Or like the first time it happened, like these were ads that I had worked these ads and I'd ran these ads for a long time, and I had them to like a really sweet point that I knew that I didn't change something that did it. But I was able to be there for all these other people now and go like, don't worry, like this happened to me. It's okay. What can you do? Make these changes if you want, but otherwise like a couple days, they'll come back on. And everybody's like, they came back on, they came back on, they came back on. So just like the kids, like shit happens. Like, what are we going to do now? Like, it's okay. We don't trick or treat. What can we do? What'll be fun? Like, maybe we'll think of something that'll now be like the new thing we do. And it'll be cool. Like, shit happens. It's okay.
Especially when it's out of your control and there's nothing you can do about it.
I thought it was me. And then realizing that I am putting so much of my, I don't want to say like my business, but like so much faith in this thing I have no control over, that you're always going to be let down if you do that. So whether it's your ads or it's a part of your business, or maybe you have like way too much involved in one employee, like if that one employee gets sick, like you can't be like, oh my God, I'm screwed. Like you set yourself up for failure. You got to be flexible and not have so much faith in that one thing that you have no control over. And in this case for me, it was Facebook ads. I have no control over Facebook. Like, especially how glitchy it's been. Drive me crazy. Everything drives me crazy. I'm changing the name of this show. This is called What Drives Torie Crazy. If you want to get smart tools to build your business, go to besmartaf.com.